pushing that agenda onto kids and confusing people and gaslighting that, hey, XX, who knows? Maybe XY, who knows? When you start talking like that with facts.
Oh, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So the devil's in the details. So if you say to me, hey, don't let people have irreversible surgery before 18, I agree completely. Okay. The right wing picked it because they think, okay, and they tried different things. They said, all right, Trump tried to ban transgender people from the military. Turned out it wasn't popular. He tried to ban transgender people from bathrooms and stuff, and that didn't turn out to be popular. Point is,
you're
to drive
right,
hatred.
and it started from the left. Is
It
what
did
they're
not.
doing.
No.
It's a division started by the left. Nobody. You didn't have to put that magazine in there.
Pat, look, I'm doing a rebellion against the portion of the left that goes too far, and they
It is a religion. Of course it is.
So
LGBTQ has become a religion. Okay, so I got 8 more minutes. What I want to do is I want to go into a couple other issues before we wrap up. Fair with this one. What I will tell you on the mother.
All right, so we've got Patrick Bet-David sitting down with Cenk Uygur from the Young Turks. And guys, this one gets absolutely wild. Like, buckle up kind of wild. They're going head-to-head on the trans issue, culture wars, Neil deGrasse Tyson saying people can wake up feeling 80% male one day and 80% female the next. And watch how PBD just systematically dismantles every single talking point Cenk throws at him. And here's what's crazy. Cenk actually agrees with some of PBD's points at first, but then you watch him try to squirm out of defending the indefensible when it comes to what's being taught to kids in schools. Like, the moment PBD pulls out the actual receipts, the books, the union recommendations, the real agenda being pushed, Cenk's whole Republicans started this culture war narrative just collapses. This is a masterclass in how to debate someone who refuses to admit what's right in front of them. Let's get into it.
Let's see if we can agree on this. So here's a clip. I want to know what you think about the scientist, what he's saying. Whether you and I can agree that this is absolutely ludicrous, or you may say, no, I think there's a point here. Go ahead and play this clip.
Point is, apparently, the XXXY chromosomes are insufficient. Because when we wake up in the morning, we exaggerate whatever feature we want to portray the gender of our choice. Either the one you're assigned, the one you choose to be, whatever it is. And so now, so now just to tie a bow on this, I say to you, somewhere I think I read that the United States was a land where we have the pursuit of happiness.
Yes.
Suppose no matter my chromosomes, today I feel 80% female, 20% male. I'm gonna put on makeup. I'm gonna do that. Tomorrow I might feel 80% male. I'll remove the makeup and I'll wear a muscle shirt. Why do you care?
Yeah.
No one cares about it.
What business is it of yours to require that I fulfill your inability to think of gender on a spectrum?
Okay, pause this. So why do you care? Before I give you mine, do you agree with what he's saying?
I largely agree.
Tell me why.
So, first of all, freedom. I thought the right wing was in favor of freedom. So if people want to be trans, why do you care? I totally agree with that. And so taking away rights from people, no, we're all 100% Americans. You shouldn't take away any rights. But if you get into the details, that's where some folks on the left have attacked me as a transphobe because I disagree on 2% of the issues. So you tell me what your policy you're talking about, and I'll give you my answer.
So, for example, if you one of my favorite shows, I went with my wife in Vegas. Absent, I think it was called Absent. Absent or whatever it was. I don't know if you've been to it or not. Have you seen the show?
Caesar's Palace.
It's
great.
Freaking insane show. But guess what it is? A lot of crazy stuff you're going to see. We were entertained. As adults, we were absolutely entertained. No problem. You want to dress up, you want to do whatever, you want to be gay after you're 18 years old, go for it. You want to change your sex, you want to go from having this to cutting this, I'm Caitlyn Jenner, do your thing. Whatever, you're an adult. Pushing that agenda onto kids and confusing people and gaslighting that, hey, XX, who knows? Maybe XY, who knows? When you start talking like that with facts and you're a respectable scientist, not only do you sound delusional, but what you sound like is someone like Leon Black, that somebody has something behind closed doors on you that's blackmailing you, that you have to now agree with these positions. For somebody to say, how the hell did you go from being a respected scientist to all of a sudden saying, one day I can wake up feeling like a female. One day I can wake up feeling like a male. And why do you care? No one cares. The only care where I think Democrats are losing a big part of their base, where I don't know if you saw the stats that came out talking about senior boys are becoming overly conservative. Did you see this chart or no? That just came out yesterday or the day before. Rob, do you have this or no? Do you want me to text it to you? Type in senior boys conservative. Yeah, if you can, this is the Hill. If you can go, high school boys are trending conservative. And if you go and show the chart, there's that chart right there. If you look at that, zoom out a little bit so we can read the whole survey. Okay, so political identities of 12th grade boys, percent identifying as liberal versus conservative from 1975 to today. So look at blue, where it was at, and now, 2023, it's conservative and less liberals. This is seniors, 12th grade boys, okay? Yeah. So maybe some of these guys are just fed up with it and are like, listen, man, I'm sick of this BS, dude. This, whether I identify as a boy or as a girl, leave me alone. Let me figure it out when I'm an adult. Stop imposing this idea on me. I had Anthony Weiner on the podcast, okay, a week ago. I don't know how you feel about Anthony Weiner, but I had him on the podcast a week ago. And it was right before Chris Cuomo. And I look at Anthony Weiner, I said, do you know how to give a blowjob? And he looks at me in a weird way, like, what kind of a question is that? I said, well, no. Do you know how to? He says, no. I said, did you learn how to give one? No. Nobody taught me. Why are you asking me a question like that? I said, because that's what's being taught in some public schools today with books, with images on how to give it, and it's normal, okay? Now, these pictures are out there, these books are out there, and they put it right on there, sold millions of copies, and a lot of parents around the country are fighting for it, and it's in your state, which,
That's why we got to control straight people.
Yeah, so where Newsom will come out, and Newsom will say stuff like, banning of the books, and banning of the books, and banning of the books, and parents say, listen, stop playing politics. Start defending facts and stop playing politics. So can we, in an area of agreement, agree that maybe all this LGBTQ agenda that you have, sell it after I'm 18 years old, not when I'm in third grade. Can we agree on that?
No, and I'll tell you why. Okay. So the devil's in the details. So if you say to me, hey, don't let people have irreversible surgery before 18, I agree completely. Okay.
So check. We're on that on the same page. So what Trump is about to do, 50 states, he said he's not going to allow for that surgery to take place.
Just surgery, though.
Just surgery is where you are. Okay, let's see where you go next. Go for it.
So, but if you say, hey, they're coming after the kids, that's the oldest line of attack against gay people in the history of the world. They're coming after your kids. They're coming after your kids. I mean, look at the example you gave, how to give a blowjob, right? That doesn't say gay or straight. That's why I joked and I said, we got to get straight people under control, right? Because straight people get tons and tons of blowjobs. And that's part of the reason why they put it into some, and it's misguided, to put it into some of those sex education classes, right? Does anybody go, we got to get straight people under control. Look at them teaching blowjobs, goddamn straight people. No, because they don't want to demonize straight people. They want to demonize LGBTQ people. That's why they connect LGBTQ people with children. Now, when you say, hey, groomers and pedophiles, etc., well, straight people do it more. Why aren't we talking about straight people? There are way more straight pedophiles. There are way more straight groomers. And by the way, tons of Republicans. A new one gets revealed every single week, right? So, but we don't have that conversation. Instead, we focus like a laser beam on the LGBTQ community because honestly, the point is to spread hate against the LGBTQ community. If you say to me something has gone out of bounds, okay, let's have a discussion about it, right? I think surgery under 18 is out of bounds. By the way, this is why I'm called a transphobe by some people in the radical left.
Gives a shit, yeah.
Yeah, and because I say, look, there are some certain things that are out of bounds. Like one of the things I disagree with, I think the professional leagues should make their own decisions about whether they let trans people compete in their leagues or not. And they say, no, people say, with hormones. Dude, you give Shaq all the hormones in the world, right? He's going to destroy the WNBA. And people get super mad when I say that. But no one agrees with you. I love you, brothers and sisters, and they're part of my network. But Shaq is going to dominate. You could put every hormone in the world. Men's bodies are structured differently. They maintain mass better. They have a different bone structure. These are facts. So if you're talking about biology, I agree. If you're talking about targeting LGBTQ people overall and kids, no, I don't agree.
What about puberty blockers?
Puberty blockers is a super tough one. So right now, a lot of people...
Hold on, stop right there. Did you catch what just happened? Cenk just tried to pull the classic deflection move. Oh, they're coming after your kids. That's just homophobia. That's the oldest trick in the book. As if parents being concerned about explicit sexual content being taught to third graders is somehow bigotry. Dude, no one's saying don't exist as a gay person. No one's saying adults can't do whatever they want. That's not what this is about, and Cenk knows it. Look at how he tries to make this about straight people giving blowjobs, too. Like, yeah, bro, we don't want that taught to kids either. The point isn't the orientation. The point is the age. The point is the agenda being pushed onto children who don't have the capacity to process this stuff yet. And watch, PBD's about to bring the receipts. Because that's the thing with these guys. They love to talk in the abstract. Oh, Republicans are targeting LGBTQ people. But the second you show them the actual curriculum, the actual books with graphic images being handed to middle schoolers, they pivot. They can't defend it, so they accuse you of hate. And Cenk says straight people do it more when it comes to grooming and pedophilia. Okay, statistically, there are more straight people, so yeah, raw numbers. But we're not talking about hiding predators. We're talking about institutional policy. We're talking about school boards, teachers' unions, state governments pushing content that parents across the political spectrum are saying is inappropriate. This isn't about individuals. This is about systems. And the left owns those systems right now. The schools, the teachers' unions, the curriculum committees. Here's where Cenk loses me completely. He says he's against surgery under 18. Cool, we agree there. But then he says puberty blockers? Let the parents decide. Bro, puberty blockers aren't reversible the way they claim. The science is not settled. Kids who go on puberty blockers and then transition have permanent changes, bone density issues, fertility issues, sexual function issues. And you're telling me a 12-year-old and their activist parents should be making that call? A 12-year-old can't get a tattoo. A 12-year-old can't vote. A 12-year-old can't buy cigarettes. But we're gonna let them chemically castrate themselves because their parents say it's fine? That's insane. That's genuinely insane. And the fact that Cenk can sit there and say, well, I trust the parents. Dude, some parents are idiots. Some parents are ideologically captured. Some parents are being lied to by doctors who are making money off this. The Tavistock Clinic in the UK just got shut down because they were rushing kids into transitions without proper psychological evaluation. Sweden and Finland have rolled back their trans youth policies because the evidence showed harm. But in America, we're still pretending this is healthcare. Now watch what PBD does next. He's about to pull out the National Education Association recommendation for genderqueer. That book has explicit illustrations, like actual graphic depictions. And the largest teachers' union in America is recommending it for summer reading lists. Not for adults, for kids. Let that sink in for a second. And then Cenk's gonna have to either defend that or admit the left went too far. Let's see which one he picks. I'm gonna guess deflection. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Puberty blockers is a super tough one. So right now, a lot of people say that it's okay. I'm not positive that the science is settled, but for me, I would leave up to the families and the parents to decide. Like Republicans say, oh, we're really trying to protect parent rights when we ban these books, etc. Then you go, okay, parent rights on hormone therapy. I don't know their kids. I don't know their situation. And I'm not sure I know the science any better than the parents do. I'll let the parents make the decision. And then the right says, no, goddamn parents, they're not allowed to make the decision. The government is going to make the decision for them. I don't agree.
Would you say this is the #1 culture war in America right now?
It is, and I'll tell you why. Because the right wing picked it. Because they think, okay, and they tried different things. They said, all right, Trump tried to ban transgender people from the military. Turned out it wasn't popular. He tried to ban transgender people from bathrooms and stuff, and that didn't turn out to be popular. They dug and dug and dug until they got to trans sports and so-called groomers. That's when the country goes, okay, that's too much. And by the way, part of the reason I'm calling ours mainstream progressives is because a lot of the leftists fell right into that trap. And that's the only thing they talk about. They stopped talking about paid family leave and higher minimum wage, and all they're talking about is, we got to get trans people into the WNBA. No, that's not the biggest issue in America.
So you're saying this is a culture war that Republicans brought? I don't
Yes,
think so.
100%.
The National Education Association, NEA, is the largest union in America. They got 3+ million members. They've been around since 1850s. It's a long, I don't know what the years, but they've been around for a long time. Now recommends that teachers include the controversial book, Genderqueer, a memoir by Maya Kobabe on summer reading lists. Can you go a little low? To be reasonable under 12 weeks with 74% Republican for mothers, 12 weeks. And to sit there and say, no, you're being ludicrous with this because we shouldn't ban books like this and we should this be available to them yet, but ask us for this. Now you sound like a dictator and you don't see the most common argument that parents are having today. Okay, so think about it this way. State of California, since 1851, they've crushed it. I lived in California 24 years, minus my 3 years in the Army, 2.5 years in the Army. I lived in Granada Hills. I went to Glendale High School. I'm a class of 96. I lived in Porter Ranch, Woodland Hills, Northridge, earthquake. I was there 94 on Bassett off of Van Nuys down the street from Caesars Pizza and, the DMV, and the earthquake was like a minute long. I've been through all of that. I lived in LA, had a great time, did my thing, and then I joined the Army. First time they lost people leaving was a couple years ago, and they continue losing. And they're saying this is going to stick around till 2060, okay? Where it's not going to have the kind of growth that they're having. Now, whether it's going to be 2060, I don't think it's going to be 2060 because, when it comes down to that, things change fairly. It takes a few years to change, but they change. When you talk to people who are leaving, I think most people will stay if taxes are higher. I don't think that's why people leave. You know that. They'll stay in New York. They'll stay like, you know what? Screw the taxes, but you know what? I'll make more. Fine, right? Yeah. Cool. I'll make more. And then you're like, well, let me tell you, look what they're doing here with this. It's a liberal policies and whatever. Hey, we're going to start teaching this in schools? No, bro, you just crossed the line with me. You don't get to dictate that with my kids. I'm not good with that. You're forcing down the throat of my kids. Now I have to leave. Now you go to net negative, which if anybody ran against Newsom, that's all they have to talk about. While you were there, you're the first governor ever where people left your state. They left you. He can say, well, it's the 5th biggest economy in the world. That's not because of what you did. That's because of what people did prior to you being a governor. Not because of your doing, because of the people that came before you. While you were here, you lost people and they went to other places because you started to try to indoctrinate their kids. That's crossing the line. So if you say, Pat, let's kind of find an equal, like one of the things you said about COVID, you know what, now that I'm seeing it, I chose to do it, but I don't think it's this. Okay, fine. We had like a, area where you sounded reasonable, I sounded reasonable, great. Hey, parents, this, no problem. By the way, just so you know, I just texted both my HR people while you're asking me, both the companies, to ask them what's our thing, because my president that I promoted in my insurance company, she's a female. She's had 2 kids while she's been with me for 13 years. So we've gone through the process with her, and we're checking to see what it is, to see what the protocols are. We're a fair company. Company bought our company. You know what the conversation was about after they bought it? They said, your benefits are too rich. We're going to have to bring it down a little bit before the end of the year. So no problem. Our benefits have always been above what others offer. No problem. Our minimum wage is $15 an hour. We don't have an issue with it. That's always been the case for many years. So, but in this area, brother, if you look at this area and you say, I don't think that's a big deal, you're going to lose a lot of people from both sides.
But that's why I'm saying that is a needle. And if you show me that needle and that's got oral sex and it's going to any grade in high school, I agree with you. That needle should be taken out of the haystack. Okay. But
would you fight that fight? Would you get behind that fight?
Yeah, if you show me this exact book,
I'll send you all the books.
Right, and so if you show me a book but at the same time, Pat, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Now they're taking out tons of books that don't have anything to do with anything, that aren't talking about sex, but they're talking about gay people existing. Well, they took out one book that was 2 penguins that aren't even gay, and they're not even human. They're goddamn penguins that took care of a baby, and they're like, it looks a little gay, and they took it out. I mean, come on. And then you tell me you're not against gay people. I don't follow
penguins. I don't know which penguin story you're talking about. I'll look at it to see what it is.
But you see what I'm doing, Pat? I'm finding a needle. You're finding a needle.
No. This is not a needle, bro. This is not a needle. The penguin thing, I don't subscribe to Penguinology or whatever that magazine is. Well, I'll look it up. I'll take a look to see what it is, and I'll give my own opinion on that. That's not where I'm going with this. This is no longer a needle, bro. This is a national. This is riots, protesting happening. It is. It actually is. In many different states. It's
driving hatred, Pat. It is. The point is to drive hatred.
And it started from the left, is what they're doing. It's a division started by the left. Nobody, you didn't have to put that magazine in there.
Pat, look, I'm doing a rebellion against a portion of the left that goes too far. And now that portion thinks I'm a right winger. They thought I was going to come on here and declare that I was a Republican. Does it sound like I'm a Republican? Okay.
Okay.
They thought, and a whole bunch of people think I'm establishment. Does it sound like that? No way.
You sound like a Democratic capitalist.
Exactly. Okay. So, but Pat, so if you say, hey, these folks are going too far when they're saying that surgery should be okay, and by the
Okay, so Cenk just said this culture war was started by Republicans. That Republicans dug and dug and dug until they found trans sports and groomers as wedge issues. Are you serious right now? Like, genuinely, are you serious? Parents didn't wake up one day and decide to get mad about school curriculum for no reason. This didn't come from Republican strategists sitting in a room plotting how to hurt LGBTQ people. This came from moms and dads opening their kids' backpacks and finding books with sexual content they never consented to. This came from school boards holding meetings where they refused to let parents see the curriculum. This came from teachers' unions suing states that tried to require parental notification. The left did this. The left overplayed their hand. And now they're mad that people are pushing back. Cenk brings up Bill Maher's bit about how Gen Z is 21% gay compared to like 2% for boomers. And he says, oh, it's just because they finally have permission to come out. Bro, come on. You don't go from 2% to 21% just because of acceptance. That's not how this works. If being gay is biological and fixed, which is what we were told for decades, right? Born this way, Lady Gaga, all that. Then the percentage shouldn't change that drastically just because culture shifted. What's more likely? It's social contagion. It's kids being told from kindergarten onward that gender is a spectrum, that if you don't fit into a stereotype, you might be trans, that if you're a tomboy, you're actually a boy, that if you're a sensitive guy, you're actually a girl. It's TikTok algorithms pushing trans content to vulnerable teenagers. It's schools with gender support plans that actively hide information from parents. It's therapists who are afraid to question a kid's self-diagnosis because they'll get accused of conversion therapy. And look, I'm not saying gay people don't exist. I'm not saying people who genuinely experience gender dysphoria don't exist. They do. But we went from treating it as a rare psychological condition requiring careful, cautious evaluation to celebrating it as an identity and fast-tracking kids into irreversible medical interventions. How is that not insane? How do you not see that as a problem? Cenk tries to compare it to religion. People get persuaded to become Christian. People get persuaded to become gay. It's the same thing. Okay, first of all, if you're admitting that sexual orientation can be socially influenced, you just destroyed the born this way argument. You can't have it both ways. Either it's innate and biological, or it's influenced by culture and environment. Pick one. And second, yeah, religion is a social construct. You're right. People are raised into it. And you know what? We don't let third graders make permanent decisions about their religious beliefs that alter their bodies. We don't circumcise girls. We don't let Jehovah's Witnesses refuse blood transfusions for their kids in life or death situations. We recognize that kids need protection from ideological capture, even from their own parents. So why is gender ideology the one exception? Here's the thing about this whole debate. PBD keeps bringing it back to one simple question. Why are you teaching this to kids? And Cenk keeps dodging. He'll say, oh, but Republicans banned a book about penguins. Dude, no one cares about the penguin book. That's a distraction. We're talking about graphic sexual content. We're talking about gender ideology being embedded in math lessons and history lessons. We're talking about schools actively working against parents. And that's why Democrats are losing on this. Because normal people, including a lot of Democrats, see what's happening and they don't like it. That chart PBD showed about high school boys trending conservative, that's not because of Republican propaganda. That's because teenage guys are being told they're inherently toxic, that masculinity is dangerous, that they need to sit down and shut up and let girls dominate every space. And they're fed up. They're voting with their feet. Cenk's trying to position himself as the reasonable mainstream progressive who thinks the left went too far on some stuff. And to his credit, he does push back on some of the more extreme positions. But he still can't bring himself to admit that this entire issue was driven by left-wing activists, left-wing institutions, and left-wing policies. He has to blame Republicans for picking it as a wedge issue. Bro, you handed them the wedge. You carved it, sharpened it, and wrapped it in a bow. All they did was point at it. All right, let's see how this wraps up.
It was crime, and that's why people were leaving. If you want to talk about how people went too far, the left went too far on crime, we're having a real conversation. But in terms of LGBTQ folks, no. Look, I have a guy I ran into at a business conference. He lives down in Miami.
Yeah.
Okay, and he said my kid and I took a picture. We had it in the. We were gonna. They asked for a yearbook,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then we had the pride flag in the back, just coincidentally, because I'm gay, right? And we happen to have one in the back. They took it out of the yearbook because you can't talk about gay people, and because the teachers are worried they're going to get sued and they're going to go get bankrupt, right? And so, and there was his daughter wrote a story about how their summer vacation and what they did. And in it, she mentioned that her dad was gay because talking about his partner. They're like, don't write that story. You're not allowed to write that story. Pat, it's too much. It's too much.
Brother, Bill Maher. In high school, how many kids were gay when you went to school? You're not about the same age. How many kids were gay in high school? Be honest. Like, I'm not telling you, hey, Joey was gay. I'm saying like that you and I know about. How many kids were gay in high school that were out?
Well, it was terrible to come out back then, and maybe one, maybe two.
But me too, right? And then later on they came out and you're like, okay, cool, bro, it's totally fine. But it wasn't like it was in your face. Traditionalists, 0.8% are gay. They don't give a shit about what you and I think, but they're 0.8% gay. Boomers, it's like 2-3%. Then you go, now Gen Z is 21% gay. You cannot, even Bill Maher talked about this, and Bill Maher's not going to vote Republican.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something no one else says.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you get divided into these two camps, which I don't think are right. So why are more people gay now, or coming out as gay? Does culture matter? Yes, it does. And so does the culture make them gay? No. What it does is it gives them permission. And it turns out the 21% would have been gay, bisexual, something along the spectrum, and they didn't have permission. Are you telling me that we had permission before? You knew how it was when we grew up. They did not have permission. Okay, they were
21% are finally coming out. No, it's also, okay, so what religion are you? You were a Muslim. What are you now?
Atheist.
You're an atheist?
Yeah.
Who persuaded you to become an atheist? You didn't do it independently.
I'll tell you what persuaded me. I read the Quran and the Bible. And then I became an atheist.
You read those books and did any influence of Hitchens? Did any influence of anybody else, any other books, nothing?
No, I just read the Quran and the Bible. And I was like, these are obviously not correct.
Those are not me. I'm going to go be an atheist. That was your way. Okay. Yep. How many people you think become Christians because somebody baptized them and persuaded them?
Almost all of them.
Okay, same thing with gay. It's a religion. Being gay is a religion. Of course it is. So LGBTQ has become a religion. Okay, so I got 8 more minutes. What I want to do is I want to go into a couple other issues before we wrap up. Fair with this one. What I will tell you on the mother side, why I like what direction you're going with that, I'll give you my feedback on that. Anything to support increasing the number of babies we're having in America in a climate where mom and dad are existent, I'm for that. Any entitlement program that encourages mothers to have babies without a father being in the picture, I am not for that entitlement program. There should be no incentives to incentivize somebody to get $500 a month from the government to have more kids. If any of those types of programs, I don't support it. I support you're married, you have 2 kids, guess what? Let's keep recognizing people that are married with 2 or 3 kids. If this is us, I'm not going to go 83% and we say, well, 83 months, 83 weeks at these different places. We're not trying to be those countries. They're trying to be us. We're not competing with those guys. Hey, look what these guys, I don't care what the other guy's doing. Like, in my family, my kids will come and say, Joey has a phone at 6 years old. I don't give a shit. I don't care if a kid at 4 years old got a phone. You ain't getting a phone in my family. So my standard isn't to try to be Europe. Europe is trying to be us. And they've failed. We have proven that the American system is the best system in the world based on many different metrics. We can talk about involvement in wars and all that stuff. Set that stuff aside. That's the military-industrial complex. But why are you here as an immigrant? Why am I here? Why middle? Because it's the best system. Let me go to the last part before we wrap up because we haven't talked about this at all. And we can maybe, folks, what we may do the next time is maybe we'll do a live event next time with me, you, and we'll invite somebody. Would you ever do something with Alex Jones or no? Would you ever be in the same room with Alex?
No, not
What
anymore.
if I moderate? It's the 3 of us.
Hey, the guy's a lunatic. What am I going to have a reasonable conversation with him?
You like entertainment. I think it'll be. Would you ever entertain a 3-hour with him?
I went on a show about a decade ago, and I went all the way down the rabbit hole, and I kept asking him questions. Okay, Alex, what happens next? What happens next? Oh, after all your conspiracies. And at the end, he's like, oh, the people who control the world are going to kill 90% of us.
Let me be the mediator. Okay. Would you do it? If I did it, would you do it?
Look, I'm willing to do a lot of podcasts going forward, right? And I'm willing to do a lot of media.
Would you do
forward.
Alex?
I'd have to think about it because he's a lunatic.
Can you think about it and let me know? Because some of the other sides say you're a lunatic. So to me, I like talking to both of you guys. So for me, I don't have a problem talking to either one of you guys. What if I'm in the middle?
But he's not in the fact-based world. Like I'm going to say things that are based on facts, and he's going to say that both frogs are gay.
I mean, totally get it.
The frogs are gay, Jake. What are you talking about?
But a part of it is entertainment. A part of it, I think the audience would like to see it. And if you're better at arguing, you're a pretty good debater. Maybe you win the argument, and you're going to be like, hey,
not maybe. Of course, I'm going to win the argument. That's not the question.
So then, what you're saying is you'll think about it, and you'll let me know if you're open to the idea or not. Maybe the next one we'll do live audience, 200 people in the cigar lounge.
All right, so let's call it. Patrick Bet David absolutely dominated this conversation. Like, it wasn't even close. Cenk came in trying to play the reasonable progressive card, trying to position himself as the guy who's willing to push back on the far left. And sure, he gave an inch here and there. But the second PBD pressed him on the actual policy, the actual books, the actual agenda being pushed in schools, Cenk folded. He deflected. He pivoted to, well, Republicans are just trying to spread hate. No, dude. Parents are just trying to protect their kids. And that's not hate. That's love. Here's what Cenk doesn't get. Or maybe he does get it and he just can't admit it. The reason this is the #1 culture war issue in America right now is because the left crossed the line. You can't mess with people's kids and expect them to just go along with it. You can't tell parents we know better than you and then hide curriculum from them. You can't gaslight people into thinking that a 21% gay rate among Gen Z is just because of acceptance when it was 2% a generation ago. People aren't stupid. They see what's happening. And PBD nailed it when he brought up California losing population for the first time in history. People will tolerate high taxes. They'll tolerate traffic. They'll tolerate expensive housing. But the second you start indoctrinating their kids with gender ideology, they're out. They're done. And that's exactly what's happening. Families are leaving blue states in droves because they don't want their children subjected to this stuff. And Democrats are going to keep losing elections until they figure that out. Cenk tried to make the case that this is all just Republican fear-mongering, but then PBD showed him the receipts. The NEA recommending genderqueer, the explicit content in school libraries, the stats on kids identifying as trans skyrocketing. And what did Cenk do? He tried to change the subject to penguins. Bro, come on. If your defense is, well, they also banned a book about penguins, you've already lost the argument. Look, I actually respect that Cenk is willing to sit down and have these conversations. A lot of people on the left won't even engage. They'll just call you a bigot and walk away. And I respect that he admits surgery under 18 is too far. That's more than most progressives will say. But he's still not willing to go far enough. He's still not willing to say, yeah, we screwed up. We went too far. We need to roll this back. And until the Democratic Party is willing to say that, they're going to keep bleeding voters. PBD's whole point is simple. Leave the kids alone. Let adults do whatever they want. But stop pushing this on children. Stop hiding things from parents. Stop pretending that disagreeing with your ideology is the same as hatred. And honestly, that's just common sense. That's not right-wing. That's not left-wing. That's just being a rational human being who cares about protecting kids. So yeah, Patrick Bet David won this one, decisively. Cenk put up a fight, but he was defending an indefensible position, and it showed. Drop a comment and let me know what you thought. Did Cenk make any good points, or was this a complete blowout? And if you want to see more debates like this, hit that like button and subscribe. We do this every week here at MB. Stay sharp. I'll see you in the next one.